Welcome back to Understanding Human Anatomy and part 2 of the abdominal wall. We'll continue our discussion with the second layer of muscle in the abdominal wall, and that is the internal oblique muscle. And the internal oblique is so named because the muscle fibers run at an oblique angle. In other words, they run at an angle to horizontal and vertical, somewhere in between. So I'm going to sketch the internal oblique in green, pretty much like I sketched in the transverse abdominis. And the internal oblique gets down here onto the inguinal ligament. It takes part of its origin from the inguinal ligament. And we'll color this in. So that's the internal oblique on one side. And I'll sketch it in on the other side as well. And coming down to the inguinal ligament, because that's part of the origin of this muscle. Like that. And we will color it in like I did on the other side. And like I did for the transverse abdominis, I'm going to color the tendon in a slightly lighter color. You can see it here. And there's the linea alba, and I'm going to reinforce that in black. So this is the internal oblique, and I need to add fibers to it. So let me start drawing in fibers, and you can see I am drawing them at an angle, and as the fibers are running inferiorly, they're angling laterally in this anterior view. And over here, we'll do the same. Like so. Let me clean it up a little bit here. Okay, and now we'll add some labels. Line in. And I want to label the tendon, and what you need to know is that the tendon of the internal oblique divides into two. And what we're looking at in this view is the deep layer of the internal oblique tendon. So it divides into two, and part of it goes around posterior to rectus abdominis, and part of it goes anterior to rectus abdominis. So bear this in mind, that this is just the deep layer of the internal oblique tendon. Now, at this point, I want to leave these three layers of muscles and concentrate on the pair of muscles that lie in the anterior. And I'm going to sketch them in right here. And I'm going to sketch them in purple. And this pair of muscles are the rectus abdominis muscles. They're the muscles that form the six packs in someone that has a very well developed abdomen. So let me color in the two rectus muscles. Getting these colored in here. Then we'll add some detail to them. The rectus abdominis muscles have what are called tendinous inscriptions. And those are just areas of tendon that divide the muscle up into pieces or segments, like so. And the muscle runs from the pubic bone up to the bottom of the rib cage and costal cartilages. And let me put some fibers in. And the term rectus means straight. And we'll find that this muscle runs straight, superior, inferiorly. And all the muscle fibers are parallel, also oriented in that vertical dimension. So I got one with the fibers drawn in. Like so. So this is the rectus abdominis. put a line running over to it here. Okay, the rectus abdominis, and these little lines that are interrupting the muscle, dividing it into segments, are called tendinous inscriptions. And I'll draw a line to one of the inscriptions here. Okay, the rectus abdominis and tendinous inscriptions. You can see from this diagram that the posterior surface of the rectus abdominis is covered by the deep portion of the internal oblique tendon and the transverse abdominis tendon. And together, those layers of connective tissue, those layers of tendon, form the deep layer of the rectus sheath. Now, I'm going to stop this diagram at this point and pick up the diagram in the next video. Thank you for your attention.